In 2015, my husband and I were looking for our first home. We had seen about a dozen houses at this point, and our realtor wanted to show us one more house. He said it was a pretty good deal for the size of the home. The house was a beautiful Victorian-style house. The house was approximately 3,800 square feet. The listing price for the house was $195,000. So at that time, that was a very decent price for the size of the home, considering that it had 4 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. When we met our realtor, he was waiting for us outside on the wraparound porch. We greeted him and he took us inside the house. When I first entered the home, I felt like I traveled back in time. Everything looked outdated. Considering that it was 2015, I was wondering why the owner didn't update anything. The realtor told me that the owners were 2 elderly couples who was facing some health issues, and so they wanted to sell the house quickly because they had already moved into their assisted living apartments. So the realtor continued to show us the rest of the house. First, we saw the kitchen, and then the living area, and then the basement. And in the basement was where I got the most creepiest feeling. I was walking down the stairs to the basement. My husband was still upstairs in the kitchen, and the realtor was standing by the doorway waiting for him to catch up. I got about halfway down the stairs when I noticed that the basement was feeling really cold. And I also noticed that the basement was very dim. There wasn't a lot of natural lighting in the basement. The foundation was made of stone, and so it looked even more creepy as I walked around the basement. As I made my way around the furnace, I noticed that it was particularly wet in one corner. I wanted to show my husband this and make sure he didn't think there was any foundation issues if we were to buy this house. I called for him and he came over, and that's when we noticed that behind the water heater was this little hallway. I asked the realtor about this, and he told us this was the first time he's been inside this house, so he didn't know what it was either. On the listing, it said nothing about an extra room in the basement. My husband turned on his flashlight and said, "Hey, let's go check it out." I really didn't want to go. I wanted to stay back and just leave the house, but my husband and the realtor took out their flashlight and started walking down this narrow hallway. It was really cold at that point, and this little tiny hallway must have been about 5 feet long, led to this room. The room looked like it was customized by a previous owner because it didn't seem like it was underneath the house. It looked like someone had dug an extra room into the wall of the foundation and made a little room back there. The room was about 8 feet by 10 feet. There was a lot of shelving, and it looked like the room was used for storage of some sort of machineries or like a workshop of some sort. There was a lot of cobwebs and spiders, so I actually didn't enter the storage room. There was no light switch or light bulbs in that room. So as my husband and the realtor was looking around with their flashlight, underneath one of the work table, we noticed that there was a wooden door. The door was about 3 feet tall. It was hidden behind some of the boxes. That door was on the same side as the backyard, where the owner had an in-ground pool. And so we thought that must be where they kept the water pump or filter for the pool. But my husband, being curious, decided to open up the door. At this point, it was really creepy, and the realtor and I looked at each other and we said, we should probably just let it be. So my husband's like, "Let's check it out since we're here." The realtor and I stepped back and let my husband do his thing. My husband turned on his phone, and then he turned on video mode to videotape what was in that room because he didn't want to go in there himself. So when he turned on his phone and it was dark, the flashlight automatically went on the phone in video mode, and he made a quick sweep of whatever room was behind the door, and then he closed the door, and then we left. After we got upstairs, I was too creeped out to see the rest of the house, and I didn't want to look anymore. So we told the realtor we've seen enough, and we went to the car. When we got to the car, my husband decided to play back the video, And what he captured was a little room with a bed in it. And the bed had a bed skirt, and it looked like it hadn't been touched in years. There was cobwebs everywhere, all over the little furniture and the mirror and everything. As I'm watching this video, I noticed that the bed skirt moved. So I told my husband to rewind the video, and he did. And he rewinded it, and sure enough, the bed skirt moved down by the foot of the bed by itself. I don't remember there being a draft or any type of like airflow in that room when we first got there. It was just cold. So before the realtor left, my husband waved him down and showed him the video that he took. So the realtor was curious to see what could have caused that. And so he decides to call his friend who works with the police department. And we waited there for about half an hour, and the guy shows up. The realtor and us, we show him where that hidden room was, and he goes in there with his flashlight. He looks around, and after a couple of minutes, he comes out. He says there's nothing in there. It looks like a bed, like an old bed, and some old furniture in there, possibly like a playroom. But there was nothing underneath the bed or any other signs of suspicion in that room. The only thing he can't tell us was that that room was unpermitted, meaning that it did not have a permit. And because that was not disclosed in the listing, it may cause the buyer some issues later on with the city if they were to have the house reviewed. So my husband and I, we left. We didn't buy the house or go back to the house. I just couldn't shake this feeling. And we watched the video again and again. And sure enough, it really did look like something moved the bed sheets at the foot of the bed.
Subscribe now.